Discipline builds consistency because it is the force that compels us to act long after the initial spark of excitement has faded. And it is consistency, not occasional bursts of effort, that turns average people into exceptional achievers. For while talent may open the door and create opportunities, it is the disciplined routine of showing up every day, putting in the effort, and refusing to be swayed by fleeting moods or distractions that leads to lasting success. As the difference between those who dream and those who achieve is rarely found in innate ability, but rather in willingness to honor commitments to themselves even when the world offers excuses, comfort, or easier paths. And this consistency gradually compounds over time, turning small daily actions into massive results. Just as drops of water shape stone not through force but through persistence, and by following disciplined patterns of behavior, whether it's waking up early to work toward a goal, dedicating time to learning a skill, or showing up for practice when tired, you create momentum that carries you through days of doubt and difficulty. For success is not an event but a process, not a single shining moment, but a long sequence of disciplined steps that appear ordinary yet accumulate into extraordinary outcomes. And discipline builds trust within yourself, because when you repeatedly follow through on what you said you would do, even in the absence of motivation, you teach your mind and body that you can be relied upon, which strengthens confidence, resilience, and inner drive, while inconsistency erodes progress and keeps you stuck in cycles of starting and stopping, beginning with energy but fading when challenges appear, whereas discipline does not wait for ideal conditions or perfect feelings but acts regardless of mood, which is why those who cultivate discipline often surpass those with raw talent but no structure, since discipline turns action into habit, and habit into identity, eventually making consistency effortless, because what once felt difficult becomes part of who you are, and in that transformation lies the key to long-term achievement. For discipline is not about punishing yourself, but about honoring the vision you carry, showing up day after day, rain or shine, motivated or not, until consistency becomes the bridge between where you stand and where you aspire to be. And through this steady rhythm of disciplined action, you discover that greatness is never built in a single leap, but in countless steps taken with unwavering commitment. Freedom through structure may seem like a contradiction, but in reality discipline is the key that unlocks a life of true independence, because without order we are slaves to distraction, wasted time, and the pull of our impulses. Yet when we choose discipline, we give ourselves the structure that channels energy and focus into what truly matters, creating clarity in a world filled with noise and endless choices. For it is structure that removes the burden of constantly deciding what to do next, turning good intentions into steady habits, and allowing us to conserve mental energy, meaningful work instead of scattering it on trivialities. And in this way, discipline does not confine us, but rather liberates us from the invisible prisons of procrastination, inconsistency, and regret. Because the person who drifts without direction often feels trapped, while the one who builds a disciplined framework enjoys the peace of mind that comes from knowing time is being invested wisely. And this structure actually expands freedom by giving us control over our days, our habits, and our progress. For when you no longer fight with yourself about whether to act, when you no longer live at the mercy of moods or excuses, you experience a sense of liberation that chaos can never provide. And this order becomes a foundation upon which creativity, growth, and achievement can flourish, since the mind operates best when distractions are minimized and priorities are clear, and body thrives when routines support health and consistency. So instead of being a cage, discipline acts like a compass, pointing the way forward and ensuring that the hours of each day move you closer to your purpose, while undisciplined living drains you with constant indecision and leaves you enslaved to external circumstances. And though many see discipline as sacrifice, the truth is that lack of discipline demands a far greater price, as it breeds confusion, lost opportunities, and the constant weight of unfulfilled potential, while structure creates a system that protects your vision from being consumed by chaos, transforming effort into results, action into progress, and time into legacy. And in this balance, you find not restriction, but real freedom, because discipline frees you to focus on the work, relationships, and goals that enrich life rather than scatter it. And by establishing order, you gain the power to fully experience the depth of your abilities, the richness of your days, and the clarity of a mind no longer tangled in disorder, making discipline not a limitation, but the pathway to the highest form of freedom. Resilience in adversity is born from discipline, because when challenges strike and the path becomes uncertain, it is not raw emotion or fleeting motivation that sustains progress, but the disciplined commitment to keep moving forward even when everything around you whispers to give up. And in those moments when setbacks seem overwhelming, when effort feels unrewarded, and when doubts cloud the mind, discipline acts as an anchor that keeps you steady, reminding you of the promises you made to yourself and the vision you are working toward. For while others may surrender to frustration or abandon their pursuit at the first sign of resistance, the disciplined individual has trained themselves to show up regardless of circumstances, and this habit of persistence creates resilience, because every time you face difficulty and choose to continue, you strengthen the muscle of endurance. And just as steel is forged in fire, character is forged in adversity through the discipline of not quitting. And though pain, failure, and disappointment are inevitable parts of any worthwhile journey, discipline allows you to transform them into lessons rather than roadblocks, giving you courage to endure storms with patience and determination. For resilience does not mean avoiding hardship, but learning to navigate it without losing focus or momentum. And discipline provides that compass, keeping your actions aligned with your goals even when your feelings are in turmoil. And over time, this consistent forward motion builds a kind of quiet strength that others notice, because when most people falter, the disciplined individual continues, and that perseverance eventually sets them apart, not because their journey was easier, but because they refused to be broken by difficulty. And in this way, discipline ensures that adversity becomes a teacher rather than a tyrant, a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. For the disciplined mindset sees obstacles not as signs to stop, but as opportunities to grow stronger. And by choosing to remain grounded, by showing up when it hurts, by honoring commitments when it would be easier to run, you prove to yourself that you are capable of withstanding more than you once believed, and that realization fuels even greater resilience, creating a cycle where each trial met with discipline deepens your capacity to endure the next. And so adversity, instead of ending your journey, becomes the very thing that sharpens you. And the discipline to persist through difficulty is what ultimately separates those who merely start from those who reach the finish line. Because when storms come, and they always do, it is discipline that teaches you to keep walking until the sky clears. Self-respect and confidence are deeply rooted in the ability to keep promises to yourself, because every time you set an intention and follow through with disciplined action, you are sending a powerful message to your own mind that you are trustworthy, capable, and consistent. And this silent agreement with yourself is the foundation upon which unshakable self-belief is built. For it is not the external praise or recognition that shapes confidence most profoundly, but the inner certainty that when you say you will act, regardless of circumstances, moods, or obstacles. And when you repeatedly honor these personal commitments, even in the smallest of ways, you gradually construct a sense of self-respect that cannot be shaken by doubt or external judgment, because you have proven to yourself, through discipline, that your word has weight and your actions match your intentions, and this inner trust becomes the core of true confidence, since it does not depend on the shifting approval of others, but on the solid knowledge of your own reliability. And without discipline, promises are broken, goals are abandoned, and self-respect erodes, leaving you vulnerable to insecurity and self-doubt. But with discipline, each small victory compounds, and over time the accumulation of kept promises creates an inner strength that radiates outward, making you more decisive, resilient, and courageous in the face of challenges. And this confidence becomes unshakable not because life becomes easy, but because you know deep within that you can rely on yourself to navigate whatever comes. And such trust allows you to take risks, embrace growth, and stand firm in your values. Because the fear of failure diminishes when you have already proven to yourself that you will not abandon your path. And this cycle of discipline, self-respect, and confidence builds momentum, where each action strengthens the next, creating a powerful identity rooted in integrity. And though others may falter when their plans face resistance, the disciplined individual continues. Because their confidence is not a fragile facade, but the natural result of years of honoring commitments to themselves. And in this lies the secret of personal strength, the realization that self-respect is not given but earned through disciplined consistency, and once it is earned, it becomes the source of confidence that guides you through life with certainty, purpose, and an unshakable belief in your own strength. The path to fulfillment is paved with discipline, because without discipline, life is easily consumed by impulses, distractions, and short-lived desires that feel satisfying in the moment, but leave you drifting further from the deeper vision you carry within. And discipline is what draws the line between merely existing and truly living with purpose, as it aligns your daily actions with the long-term goals and values that matter most, ensuring that your energy is invested in building a life that reflects intention rather than reaction. And while it may feel tempting to chase ease, comfort, or instant gratification, discipline teaches you to delay those fleeting pleasures for the sake of something far more rewarding, the kind of satisfaction that comes from progress, growth, and staying true to your vision. Because true fulfillment does not come from indulging every desire, but from knowing that your choices each day are leading you toward the future you deeply want. And when you practice discipline, you create structure that transforms vague dreams into actionable steps, slowly but surely bridging the gap between who you are now and who you aspire to become. And in that process, you experience a sense of meaning that cannot be found in shortcuts, because discipline reminds you that fulfillment is not about chance, but about consciously choosing the path that aligns with your higher self. And though this path is not always easy, it is deeply rewarding, for every sacrifice made through discipline is an investment in a more purposeful tomorrow. And this consistent alignment builds integrity, where your actions reflect your values, your goals reflect your truth, and your life becomes a living testimony to your commitment. And as you remain disciplined through struggles, setbacks, and distractions, you come to realize that fulfillment is not a single destination, but a state of being created through disciplined living, where each day contributes to a larger narrative of growth, resilience, and intentionality. And the person who embraces this way of life no longer feels the emptiness of chasing impulses, because they know the satisfaction of walking a path that has meaning. And over time, the results of this discipline become visible in achievements, in personal growth, and most importantly, in the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are living in harmony with your vision. For fulfillment is not found by chance or by indulging every whim, but by the steady, disciplined choice to live in alignment with what truly matters. And that is the gift discipline offers, the power to turn life into something meaningful, directed, and deeply fulfilling.